Part 14. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 131. Li Jie and Zhou stayed in the hotel for 5 or 6 days. The beauty is by your side, and your red sleeves add fragrance. Accompanied by Zhou, Li Jie was able to code more than 18,000 words every day, and the most he wrote in one day was 27,000 words, breaking his coding record. He finally experienced firsthand what gentleness meant. The longer he spent with Zhou, the more reluctant he was to leave her, and he became a little obsessed with her. Especially after 2 or 3 days of training, Zhou's body had almost recovered, and Li Jie became even more greedy for her. In later generations, there is a question on the internet: if a beautiful girl with a goddess level was your girlfriend for a day, what would you ask her to do? Li Jie practiced this personally, and the answer was that he didn't let Zhou leave the room for 3 days. In the last 3 days, Li Jie and Zhou didn't even leave their rooms. They always ordered room service and asked the waiter to deliver meals. In 3 days, Li Jie lost 2 or 3 pounds and had dark circles under his eyes. He deeply understood another sentence: beauty is like a steel knife for scraping bones. Sex is a knife on your head, so be sure to exercise moderation. If Li Jie had to choose again, he would definitely let Zhou not go out for a week. The night of the 24th. Li Jie hugged Zhou's warm and fragrant jade body, feeling full of satisfaction. He is falling in love with this little woman more and more. Well, what a little woman. Of course, Li Jie also knew very well that his love for Zhou was more about coveting her gentleness and coveting her body. But he didn't think there was anything wrong. What he liked was her beauty, gentleness, and thoughtfulness. "Honey, are you leaving tomorrow?" Zhou put her head on Li Jie's chest and said softly. "Well, we have to go, we can't delay it any longer." Li Jie reached out and gently patted her head. In fact, on the 21st, Zhao Jie called and said that the visa of the translator he hired had been issued. As for him, who was addicted to the gentle countryside, he kept putting it off for 2 or 3 days. "But now we really can't delay it any longer." Li Jie previously told Zhao Jie and Yu Zhongfeng that he would inject another 10 million into the company before the end of the year, but now the Chinese New Year is approaching. "Husband, I'll wait for you to come back at school," Zhou said softly. Li Jie thought for a moment and said, "Ziu, why don't you go back to Hangzhou first to see your aunt? She must have missed you after not seeing you for half a year. If it's not convenient to stay at home, just stay in a hotel." Zhou looked up at him and said obediently, "Okay, hubby, I will listen to you." Li Jie reached for the wallet on the bedside table and took out the MasterCard Platinum card. Then he grabbed Zhou's fair and slender little hand and put the card in her hand. "This card has a limit of 100,000. I will repay it every month. You can spend it as you like." This MasterCard Platinum was obtained by Li Jie when he went to the bank to cash a check after he won the lottery. It is quite commemorative. Zhou looked at the bank card in his hand with complicated eyes. After hesitation, he glanced at Li Jie and gently held it. Li Jie saw her worries, held her hand, smiled and said, "Don't think too much, you are my girlfriend, I should support you, as long as you don't leave, I will support you for the rest of my life." Zhou looked at him, feeling moved in her heart. She reached over and kissed him on the lips. "Honey, I love you." Li Jie smiled, hugged her tightly, and did not answer. There are high and low levels of being moved. Dalu climbed up the stairs in the middle of the night to deliver a rice roll to Sister Li Gang, and she was so moved that she wanted to give it up. But if this rice roll was given by a wage earner, Sister Li Gang probably wouldn't even take a look at it. It is true that the gentleness of the poor is worthless, and the rogueness of the rich is extremely charming. By the way, Ziu, when you return to Hangzhou this time, you can take a look at the houses and pick out a small apartment you like. When I come back from abroad, I will buy it for you. In this way, you will have your own apartment in Hangzhou. Now that I'm home, I don't have to worry about having a place to live when I go back. You have a home of your own. Josie was stunned upon hearing this. Her beautiful eyes gradually became moist and covered with a layer of mist. Husband. Her voice was also choked up. Li Jie let go of her, looked at her and said with a smile, "You are very touched." Yes, Josie nodded vigorously, tears streaming down from the corners of his eyes. Li Jie couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. This was the first time he saw her lose her composure. The time when she was drunk didn't count, she was just faking it. Li Jie stretched out his hand to wipe the tears from her face and comforted her. "Okay, don't cry. If your makeup is ruined, you won't look good. If you are ugly, I won't like you." Josie is a very delicate girl. Even when she gets along with Li Jie in private, she always wears light makeup. Hearing what Li Jie said, Josie burst into tears and smiled again. "Yeah. Okay, I won't cry anymore." "Husband. What's wrong? You again?" "Sister, you have nothing to offer in return, so why should you pledge yourself to me?" Li Jie is actually quite pure in his thoughts now, but as a man how can he say no? De Liu's method of courting women in real estate has proven to be successful every time he tries. Especially for a girl like Josie who lacks love and family warmth, giving her a house, or a home, would definitely be a killer. Nowadays, a small apartment in Hangzhou only costs 700,000 to 800,000 yuan, so Josie was moved, and it was definitely a profit. For Li Jie, 7 to 8 million is just a small sum of money and a car. And where can he find an ideal lover like Josie? Raise a lover? Raise a lover? I don't want to spend money to support a lover. The next morning, Hongcheng Airport. In front of the security checkpoint, Li Jie hugged Josie and said to her, "The writer account is my mobile phone number, and the password is the pinyin of my name, plus the password of your silver card. There are more than 30 chapters in the manuscript box that have not been revised yet. Please help me revise them and then upload 2 chapters every night. It is not convenient for me to upload the book overseas, so I leave the update task to you." Josie nodded and said warmly, "Hubby, don't worry." Li Jie let go of her and said, "Okay, I have to go through the security check. You should go back too. Thank you all book friends for your voting support. Please continue to ask for votes and favorites. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 132. Li Jie let go of her and said, "Okay, I have to go through the security check. You should go back too." Josie snorted lightly. Li Jie turned around and was about to enter the security check channel, but she stopped him again. "Husband. Why, is there anything else?" Li Jie turned around. Josie smiled and said, "Honey, have a safe journey. And although I don't know what you are going to do abroad, I believe you will succeed." Li Jie was stunned for a moment and then smiled, "Okay, I'll lend you some good words." Watching Li Jie gradually walk away until he disappeared around the corner, Josie retracted his gaze, turned around and left the airport. Walking out of the airport lobby and outside, Josie took out the silver platinum MasterCard card from her pink purse. The bank card was shining in the sun, and the corners of her mouth could not help but raise slightly. It's great to have a boyfriend who is rich and willing to spend money on himself. After taking a taxi back to school, Josie walked into the dormitory building. In the concierge, the dormitory aunt was watching TV with a remote control. She noticed her coming in and said hello. "Xiaozhou, you haven't gone home yet." She was deeply impressed by this girl, and there was no one more beautiful than her in the whole building. "I don't know who will take advantage of me in the future." "Auntie, I'll leave tomorrow," Josie said with a smile. "I haven't seen you in the past few days, I thought you went back." Going upstairs to the door of the dormitory, Josio took out the key and was about to open the door, when suddenly the door was opened from the inside. Tsuyu, a female voice inside the door said in surprise. Lily, Josio was also surprised. Huo Lily looked at Josio outside the door and said in surprise, Ziu, you haven't gone home yet. Lily, why are you back? Josio asked. I left something in the dormitory. Come back and get it. Huo Lily is a native of Hongcheng, and it only takes half a day to come back. After she finished speaking, she asked, what about you, Ziu, why don't you go home? I won't say anything anymore. I have to go back later. Josio's eyes fell on the black skull bag behind Huo Lily. Lily, are you going back? I was leaving originally, but now that you're back, I'll stay with you for a while. Huo Lily took off her skull bag and put it aside. Josio glanced at Huo Lily and really wanted to say, actually, you don't have to accompany me. Ziu, did you go shopping? Huo Lily noticed that she was holding 5 or 6 shopping bags in her hands. You bought so many clothes. Hey. You also bought a new laptop, right? Where did you get the money to buy so many things? Seeing Huo Lily staring at him, Josio smiled nonchalantly, where did the money come from? It was given to me by my family. My Asus laptop has been used for more than 3 years, and it's time to replace it. No, Huo Lily always felt that something was wrong. I know, she suddenly reacted. You didn't come back to stay last night, right? If Josio had gone to the city early in the morning, she wouldn't have been able to come back at noon. Josio's smile faltered. With her intelligence, she didn't know how to explain it, how she made it up, and no matter how she explained it, Huo Lily probably wouldn't believe it. Huo Lily looked her up and down with a playful expression, there's something wrong with you, Ziu, something very wrong. Why are your lips a little swollen, and what's with the strawberries on your neck? Don't tell me there are mosquitoes in this winter? Please tell me honestly, have you got a boyfriend? Josio subconsciously touched her neck. The turtleneck she wore was just to cover up the evidence, but it still couldn't block it in some places. Whoever makes her skin too tender will easily be planted with strawberries by Liget. Okay Lily, I won't hide it from you anymore. I have a boyfriend. Seeing that she couldn't hide it anymore, she simply admitted it. Really? Huo Lily suddenly burst out of curiosity, is he from our school or from outside the school? How old is he? Is he handsome? She was really curious, what kind of boyfriend would Josio find? He's really handsome. He's a little older than me. Thinking of Ligia, a smile appeared on Josio's face. Then who is he? Is he from our school? Don't care who he is. Could it be that he's from outside school and already working? Huo Lily guessed. Josio smiled but said nothing. When Huo Lily saw this, she thought she acquiesced, he is quite rich, right? Well, there is a small company, Josio said smoothly. She didn't lie either. Ligia did have a small company. Have a company? It seems that he is not only handsome, but also young and promising. No wonder you are tempted. He also bought these things for you. Huo Lily glanced at Josio's laptop and clothes on the table. It seems that another advantage is that he is generous and willing to spend money on his girlfriend. By the way, how did you meet? Could it be that the real-life CEO fell in love with me at first sight? Seeing that Huo Lily was so curious, Josio also had a headache. She didn't know how to make it up. No, she didn't know how to say it. She changed the subject and said, Lily, have you had lunch? How about we go to dinner together, I'll treat you. Okay, then I won't be polite to you, the future president's wife. After finishing lunch and sending Huo Lily away, Josio breathed a sigh of relief. During the meal, Huo Lily asked her about her boyfriend again, which made her head big. Back in the dormitory, Josio looked at the empty dormitory and couldn't help but feel a little lonely. She thought about Ligia again. His plane should be arriving in Shanghai soon, right? Josie opened her laptop, logged into Li Zhe's writer account, and began to help him revise his manuscript. The next morning, Josie simply packed her things, carried her small suitcase out of the dormitory, took a taxi to the airport, and boarded a plane to Hangzhou. On the plane, Josie found her seat and sat down by the window. Today she wore a fluffy ponytail, a black slim leather trench coat, white lining, black casual pants, and sunglasses on her head, making her look beautiful and sassy. After a while, a man in his 30s, dressed maturely and appropriately, holding a black briefcase, walked over according to the seat number and sat down next to Josie. He subconsciously glanced at Josie beside him, turned his head, was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but look at her again. "Beauty, are you a celebrity? You look so familiar to me." Josie glanced at him and said coldly, "No. It doesn't matter if you don't." The man smiled and said casually, "Beauty, can we get to know each other? My name is Fuji Unming, and I have opened a small advertising company in Hangzhou." As he spoke, he stretched out his hand. "Thanks to Wanyan 6 for the many rewards, thanks to Feng Xiaomuan for the 300-point reward, thanks to Simple 909 for the 500-point reward, thanks to Book Friend 2021030110535919984982 for the 300-point reward, and thanks to Yinanan for the reward. Thank you for your support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 133. Josie did not shake hands with him. "Sorry, I have a boyfriend." The man was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Beauty, I just want to get to know you, nothing else. I think you have very good conditions and are very suitable for being an advertising model. You can consider it?" Josie shook her head. "Sorry, I don't want to get to know you, let alone be a model." After saying that, she pulled down her sunglasses and turned her head away. The man touched his nose and smiled awkwardly. "This girl is so beautiful, she looks like a big star, but she is too cold-tempered." An hour later, the plane arrived at Hangcheng Airport. Ignoring the man next to her to strike up a conversation again, Josie got off the plane, went to the baggage port to pick up her luggage, dragged the suitcase out of the airport, and hailed a taxi. "Beauty, where are you going?" The taxi driver was a middle-aged man in his 40s. When he saw Josie, he couldn't help but take a second look. Such a beautiful girl, even in a city like Hangzhou, where such a beautiful girl is the best. The place is also rare. "Master, go to Dai Lai Hotel." Josie reported the name of a hotel near Westlake. Arriving in front of the hotel, getting out of the taxi, Josie walked into the hotel with a small suitcase and came to the front desk. The receptionist of the hotel is a girl in her 20s and 40s with a pretty appearance. "Miss, what kind of room do you need?" "I have a reservation," Josie said slowly and softly. "Can you please show me your name and ID?" Josie took out his ID card and handed it over. The front desk lady checked on the computer and said, "Have you reserved a Lakeview King bedroom for 3 days?" "Right. The price for a double bedroom with Lakeview is 1,069 yuan per night. Would you like to pay in cash or by card?" "Swipe your card." Josie took out his bank card from his wallet and handed it over. "Welcome to our Dai Lai Hotel and wish you a pleasant stay." After checking in, under the guidance of the waiter, he took the elevator upstairs to the room. Josie put down his suitcase and looked at the room. The room was exquisitely decorated and warm. There is a large bed with a small nightstand beside the bed and a bouquet of flowers. There is an exquisite small desk against the wall. There is a small round table and a soft stool by the window. Sitting here, you can enjoy the view of the West Lake by the window. Beautiful view while sipping tea. Josio stood by the window and looked at the scenery of the West Lake for a while, then took out his mobile phone and made a call. I'm back to Hangzhou. After hanging up the phone, Josio opened a small suitcase, found a change of clothes, and went to the bathroom. In the bathroom, the water droplets sprayed from the shower head fell on the fair and delicate skin. Josio caressed her body gently and looked at the pure and charming face in the mirror. She couldn't help but think of Li Jie in bed, obsessed and charming. The scene of madly possessing her caused a light blush on her fair cheeks. More than 30 minutes later, Josio came out of the bathroom after taking a shower. She picked up her phone and checked the time and found that it was already past 1 p.m. She put her hair up and put on comfortable casual clothes, black casual pants, a brown loose sweater, a pair of black marten boots, and left the room holding a small brown handbag. Taking the elevator to the restaurant on the 8th floor of the hotel, Josio found an empty seat on the terrace outside the restaurant and sat down, ordering an afternoon tea set. A cup of Longjing tea, a snack, and a fruit platter. Sitting under the awning, you can look up at the West Lake surrounded by mountains. You can have an unobstructed view of the Broken Bridge, Lifeng Pagoda, Chenghuang Pavilion, and Baoka Pagoda. You can enjoy the scenery of the West Lake while enjoying the wind, sipping tea, and eating desserts. Very comfortable and leisurely. Josio took a sip of tea and looked at the West Lake. This was not her first time here, but unlike before, she had to look at people's faces. She felt calm, at ease, and unrestrained at the moment, and she was enjoying this feeling. No need, please call a strange man uncle and get a little food as a reward. After leisurely enjoying the afternoon tea for more than an hour, Josio took the elevator out of the hotel, put on sunglasses, walked to the fashionable women's clothing street, and bought several sets of clothes and shoes. When we returned to the hotel after shopping, it was already past 4 p.m. Back in the room, Josio took off her clothes, put on a black nightgown, and lay on the bed to rest for a while. After resting for half an hour, she got out of bed and sat at her desk, opened her Asus laptop, logged into Li Jie's writer account, and helped him revise a few chapters of his manuscript. After finishing revising the manuscript and closing the web page, Josio opened a folder called Weiwei and clicked on a document marked Chapter 10. 500 or 600 words had been written on the document. After reading the 500 to 600 words, she straightened her thoughts and began to code and continue writing. That's right, Josio is writing. A slight smile is alluring. That time in the library, Li Jie had the idea to train Josio to become a beautiful writer, so he wrote her a 2,000-word synopsis of the novel Weiwei. But after the showdown, the matter was shelved, and he didn't give her the 2,000-word outline. But even without an outline, Josio still relied on memory and wrote out the content of 7 or 8 chapters bit by bit. And after the two got together, she finally got the outline. Yes, it was an outline, not a brief outline. Li Jie wrote her a detailed outline of more than 12,000 words. The novel Weiwei, TV version, probably only contains more than 200,000 words. An outline of more than 12,000 words can be said to be as detailed as a chapter outline. Anyone with a bit of writing skills can write a novel with this outline. I have to say that Li Jie was really kind to his woman. Not only did he write detailed outlines and chapter outlines, but he almost rewrote Josio's 7 or 8 chapters for her, and then let her take it. She revised the manuscript he produced to create her own style. After writing for more than an hour, Josio only wrote 500 to 600 words. She stopped typing, leaned on her chair, and sighed slightly, not very satisfied with what she had written. She has been writing the novel intermittently for more than a month. Especially after many exchanges with Li Jie, she finally realized that she really didn't have much talent in writing. If Li Jie hadn't taught her step by step, she would have never written the novel Weiwei. Definitely not good at writing. The reason why Li Jie was willing to help her so wholeheartedly was because she was his woman. If she was just his ordinary classmate, Li Jie would have given up on her long ago. After saving the written content and closing the computer, Josiah picked up the remote control on the coffee table, turned on the TV, and then did yoga while watching TV. With her perfect figure, she poses in difficult poses that reveal her curves, which is really tempting. It's a pity that no one appreciates such beautiful scenery. Just when Josiah was doing yoga, the doorbell rang. Keep asking for votes and favorites. Also available next Friday. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 134. A woman about 40 years old, still charming and somewhat similar to Zhou Ziyu, walked in from the door. Xiao, you are really capable. You won't go home even after returning to Hangzhou, and you want me, a mother, to come to the hotel to find you. Facing the woman's complaints, Zhou Ziyu just looked at her calmly and said, "That's your home, not mine." Zhou Ziyu poured the woman a cup of tea. The woman looked around the room and sat down on the soft stool next to the small round table. "Xiao, where did you get the money to stay in a hotel? Do you have a boyfriend?" "That's right." Zhou Ziyu turned off the TV, pulled up the desk chair, and sat down beside him. "If it is, it is, if it is not, it is not." "What does it mean?" "He has a girlfriend." "Have a girlfriend? Have you become someone's lover?" The woman's expression changed. "Xiao, I told you, never look for old men. You are too young to play with them." Zhou Ziyu looked at the woman and suddenly smiled. "Mom. Are you finally willing to call me Mom?" the woman said angrily. "Mom, how could I sell myself for money?" Zhou Ziyu paused and said, "I really like him and chose him. He is not an old man, he is my college classmate, only 2 years older than me." When the woman heard this, her expression softened. "There's only a 2-year age difference, so I'm quite a match for you in terms of age." "What does he look like?" "It's quite handsome. It makes people feel safe just looking at it." "That's right. Just look at the face. Even if you look ugly, you won't like it? Are you sure you can snatch the person?" Zhou Ziyu glanced at the woman and shook her head slightly. "I have no intention of robbing her." "Don't plan to rob?" The woman said in surprise. "What do you mean? Do you plan to be his lover forever?" Zhou Ziyu smiled and said, "There's nothing wrong with that. His family's conditions are particularly good." "Hard to say." "What do you mean it's hard to tell?" "His family may not have much money, but he does have some money." The woman was confused by what she said. "Don't go around with me, just tell me how much money he has, right?" "More than 10 million, Zhou Ziyu suddenly smiled as he didn't know what he thought of. "More than 10 million, the woman suddenly became anxious. "I always thought that you kid was quite smart, how could you do such a stupid thing? If you have a name, that's fine, why would you follow him and become a lover without a name? In that case, you might as well stay with Xiaoyang. His family conditions are so good, and he is sincere to you." "Xiao, I don't understand why you don't like him. Isn't it bad to marry him and become a young mistress?" Hearing the woman mention the name Xiaoyang, the smile on Zhou Ziyu's face suddenly faded. "Zhou Yang is a very nice person and treats me very well, but he is so irresponsible. There is no way he can withstand the pressure at home. Instead of struggling with him for several years and letting him break up with me under the pressure of his parents, I would rather reject him first." "Mom. I'm not telling you, you really have a bad eye for men. Look at the men you are looking for, which one is reliable? Just like the man named Guo now, he has a little money, but he is willing to give it to you. Hua. If he really had feelings for you, he wouldn't let you rent a house all the time." The woman's face looked a little ugly. "Don't call me Guo, that's your uncle Guo." "Uncle," Zhou Ziyu sneered, Uncle who cares about my health. The woman's expression froze, and she sighed and said, don't blame him too much. With your looks, no man can be helpless. Besides, he didn't do anything. It's true, Josiah couldn't help but smile as she recalled Lige's behavior of avoiding her like a snake. The woman looked at her and vaguely understood something, and sighed again, I taught you so much, just because I didn't want you to be fooled by a man and get yourself into it like me. I didn't expect you to still. When she said this, she shook her head and said no more. Josiah glanced at her, smiled, and then said, Mom, I bought you a few sets of clothes and shoes, see if you like them. As she spoke, she pointed to the merchandise bags piled on the coffee table under the TV. When the woman heard this, she immediately beamed with joy and said, you are filial. Now that you have money, you will buy me something first. She got up and walked to the coffee table, looking through them one by one. When she found clothes she liked, she would try them on herself. Xiao, these clothes you bought are not cheap. Josiah smiled and said, I know you know your stuff, so of course I won't fool you with cheap stuff. The woman thought of something and suddenly put down the clothes in her hands, staring at her daughter and said, did you give your body to him? Josiah did not avoid the woman's gaze and said calmly, give it to him. I asked you why you are so generous. It turns out it was your money from selling yourself, the woman said in a frustrated voice. I teach you and train you like this just because I hope you will marry a good family in the future, and then I can also enjoy some blessings. Now it seems that all my hard work has been in vain. Then how much did he give you? It's enough for me. Humph, how much money can you spend? Josiah looked at the woman's expression, which was a little funny. Mom, how much money do you have? When she heard about money, the woman gave her a wary look. Why are you asking me how much money I have? I'm keeping this money for retirement. Josiah glanced at the woman helplessly. No one cares about your money. I asked you to take out the money you saved and make a down payment to buy a house. Lige told me that house prices will rise in the future. Buying a house now is a sure profit. No compensation. Buy a house, the woman smiled disapprovingly. House prices in Hangzhou are so expensive now. Even if I paid a down payment to buy it, I still couldn't afford the mortgage. Lige? He is the man you chose, right? He said that if house prices rise, then will it go up? Lao Guo also said it will go down. Will house prices fall? They are just looking for excuses not to buy you a house. Josiah really didn't know what to say about his mother's emotional intelligence. If a man named Guo didn't kick him quickly, would he still be keeping her for the new year? I trust Lige's judgment, and you don't have to worry about not being able to repay the mortgage. I will help you pay it back. Please help me pay it back. The woman was stunned for a moment. Xiao, are you serious? Josiah nodded, really? You pay the down payment, I'll pay the mortgage, and the house will be in your name. I'll give it to you for your retirement. You can't live for half your life without even having a house, she added in her mind. The woman smiled and said, okay, since you have to pay the mortgage, then I will listen to you and buy a house. But how much did Lige give you? Thanks to Shaching Cheng 233 points for the reward, thanks to Wanyan 6 and Gongguan number 1 for their many rewards, and thanks to Book Friend 1609090754444629 for the reward. Thank you for your support. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 135. The woman knew that her daughter was not a selfless person. Since she was willing to spend 4,000 to 5,000 a month to help her pay off her mortgage, she would definitely have a lot of money in her hands. Josiah looked at the woman, smiled and said, don't care how much money he gives me, as long as I can come up with the money to help you pay off your mortgage. Then I don't have to pay for your tuition and living expenses, right? Don't worry, I will be the only one to support you from now on, and you won't have to support me anymore. Josio looked at the time and said, it's almost 7 o'clock, let's go have dinner. Xiao, are you treating me to a treat? My treat will be my treat from now on. The two left the hotel and took a taxi to a high-end Western restaurant. The woman looked at Josio, who was cutting the steak elegantly, and couldn't help but say, that Li Jie is so good that you are willing to be his lover? With your conditions, you can't find a better man than him. Josio forked a small piece of steak and ate it, then sipped a small amount of red wine and put down the glass. He is not very good, but he has great potential. A good man should be cultivated by himself. Sitting back and enjoying the fruits will not last long. Serving others with sex, the color fades and the love relaxes. Then you can't just be his lover all the time, right? The woman frowned and said. All I can do is wait. Wait. When she gives up on her own initiative, when she leaves, I will never fight or rob her. If I win, I lose, and if I lose, I win. What if his girlfriend never leaves? Then just keep waiting. Seeing what the woman wanted to say, Josio changed the subject and said, Mom, come with me tomorrow to see if there is a suitable small apartment. The woman nodded and said with a smile, yes, it is better to buy a smaller house. It has less down payment and less pressure to repay the loan. Josio glanced at her and said, I'm not showing you the house, I'm showing it to myself. It's up to you to take care of your apartment. As long as you can afford the down payment, you can buy as big or small as you want. You don't have to pay back the loan worry. When the woman heard this, she was stunned for a moment and said excitedly, that Li Jie, did he promise to buy you a house? Josio smiled sweetly and said softly. The woman asked, full payment or loan? Full payment. Write your name. Didn't you say that he only has a net worth of more than 10 million, but he is really willing to spend 7 to 8 million to buy you a house? You won't be deceived by him, right? The woman said a little disbelievingly. Josio's smile faded. It doesn't matter how much money a man has. What matters is whether he is willing to give you flowers. That guy named Guo also has a net worth of several million, but is he willing to give you flowers? More than 3,000 a month. Living expenses, what does he think of you? And don't look down on Li Jie. 10 million is just a starting point for him. Not to mention that he is now writing books online and earns at least 2 to 3 million in royalties a year. And all this money is him, he doesn't rely on his family at all, he can spend whatever he wants, and he can give flowers to whomever he wants. Zhou Yiyang's family has hundreds of millions of dollars in assets, but what's the use? He can't make the decision. All he can make the decision is the few $1,000s of pocket money. The woman sneered, do you really believe what the man brags about afterwards? He really dares to say that he can earn 2 to 3 million by writing books online. Josio played with the wine glass in his hand and said with a smile, you think I'm as stupid as you? Li Jie has to go abroad for something, and his writer account is in my hands now. He didn't tell me how much he can earn. I guessed it myself. The woman was startled for a moment, then asked in disbelief, then he can really earn 2 to 3 million a year? Well, it's just a lot more. And I can feel that he doesn't care much about the income from writing books. He must have bigger plans. In that case, he is really a potential stock. Josio took a sip of red wine and put down the glass. Actually, what I got was much more than what her girlfriend got. Things like status are not that important. People like Li Jie are destined not to guard them. A woman lives a lifetime. Even if she can hold on for a while, she can't hold on for the rest of her life. I just need to be the woman who stays with him all the time. When a big tree rises and grows into a towering tree, the vines attached to it will also rise to the sky and you will see a different scenery. The woman glanced at her, shook her head and said, as long as you have your own plans, You won't listen to anything I say anyway, so do whatever you want. After saying that, she thought for a while and said somewhat flatteringly, Xiao, can I buy a house of any size? As long as you can afford the down payment, you can buy as big or small as you want, Zhou Ziyu said nonchalantly. Okay, then I'll raise more money and buy a bigger one. A smile suddenly appeared on the woman's face. However, I don't want to see that guy named Guo again in the future, otherwise you can ask him to help you pay off your mortgage, Zhou Ziyu said coldly. Xiao, are you worried? As for, I feel sick when I see him. The woman looked at Zhou Ziyu's firm expression, hesitated for a moment, nodded and said, okay, since you hate Lao Guo so much, then I will break up with him. When Li Jie got off the plane and saw Zhao Jie who came to pick him up, he heard some bad news. You said she quit the translator you agreed on before. Mr. Li, I didn't handle this well, Zhao Jie said, blaming herself. She suddenly came to me last night and said that something happened at home and she had to go back. She also forcibly refunded the deposit to me. Li Jie shook his head, this is not your fault, it was an accident. Besides, if I hadn't delayed it myself, everyone would have been abroad by now. Even though you signed the contract, if the person regrets it, there is nothing you can do. Even if you sue the other party, it will not help. Are there any backup candidates? It is possible to find translators, but the main problem is that it is difficult to apply for a visa, Zhao Jie said. When Li Jie heard this, he also had a headache. It takes time to apply for a visa. The previous translator's visa could be issued in 3 days, which was considered very fast. Generally, it takes at least a week to issue a visa. But it will be Chinese New Year in a week. Can we find someone with a visa? There is indeed one, but he doesn't quite meet the requirements. Go to the company and tell us. After leaving the airport, the two got into a taxi and went to the company's temporary location in Lujiazhuai. The 110 square meter house with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room that Li Jie bought with a loan was transformed into a small office, with a large office, a small conference room, a lounge, and a small tea room. The decoration supervision was also carried out by Zhao Jie is responsible. As soon as Li Jie and Zhao Jie walked in, a pretty girl in her 20s immediately stood up from behind her desk and said, Mr. Li, Sister Zhao. Keep asking for recommendation votes and collections. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 136. Li Jie glanced at the girl and nodded to her. This girl's name is Wu Nan. She graduated from a vocational college and was recruited by Zhao Jie to take charge of the left-behind work in Shanghai. Her job is very light and simple. She is responsible for answering phone calls, running errands, and delivering documents. Of course, the salary is not high, only 1,500 yuan per month. Food is not included, just room and board. I live in the company's lounge. After saying hello to Wu Nan, Li Jie and Zhao Jie came to the small conference room together. After sitting down, Li Jie said to Zhao Jie, tell me, what's going on with that person? Zhao Jie said, I am a senior boy majoring in Czech language. I applied for a visa because I wanted to travel to the Czech Republic years ago, but the price quoted was too harsh. How much does he want? 2,000 a day. Li Jie shook his head inwardly. Although the price of accompanying an interpreter was not cheap, 2,000 a day was still a bit too expensive. He was taking advantage of the situation and raising the price. And he is not willing to take a man, especially a greedy man, with him. Forget it, don't ask for a translator. If not, I will go to the Czech Republic alone. His spoken English was barely able to communicate with others. He planned to go to Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic, first to see if he could find a local translator. "Mr. Li, Sister Zhao, drink some water." Wu Nan knocked on the door and walked in with 2 cups of tea. After putting down the tea, she did not leave, her expression was hesitant to speak. Sister Zhao glanced at her and said, "Xiao Nan, what's wrong with you?" Wu Nan hesitated and said, "Mr. Li, Sister Zhao, are you looking for a Czech translator?" Li Zhe glanced at her and said, "Why, you have someone to recommend." Wu Nan nodded, "I have a cousin who is a graduate student at Zhejiang University. Her major is Japanese, but she has taken Czech as an elective. There is absolutely no problem in daily communication." Zhao Jia said, "Xiao Nan, it's not that we can't find a translator, but we are looking for someone who can speak Czech and has a Czech visa. My cousin has a Czech visa." Hearing this, Li Jia and Zhao Jia looked at each other. Wu Nan continued, "My cousin was planning to travel to the Czech Republic with her boyfriend, but her boyfriend had something to do and was delayed. I think her visa has not expired yet." Li Jia thought for a moment and realized that the cousin Wu Nan was talking about would really be a suitable candidate if her visa hadn't expired yet. "Your cousin is in Hangzhou?" "Yes, she is from Hangzhou." "Then you call her and contact her. If you are sure that her visa has not expired, tell her that I need an accompanying translator to the Czech Republic and ask her if she is willing to do it. I will give her 1,000 days. The price of 1,000 a day is not low. Hiring a high-level and experienced accompanying translator is the same price. Moreover, for such work as accompanying translators, there are many people and few jobs. There is no network and it is rare to receive jobs." Wu Nan went out to make a phone call and came back soon. "Mr. Li, my cousin's visa has not expired," and she agreed. "Then when can she come over?" "She's going to book the tickets now. She'll probably arrive at noon tomorrow. Hangzhou, Zihua District, in a rental house." Suyisha hung up the phone, sat down on the sofa next to her boyfriend Xiawei, and said happily, "I can travel to the Czech Republic for free." "What do you mean?" Xiawei glanced at her. "Xiao Nan introduced me to a job as an accompanying translator. The employer is going to the Czech Republic and needs a translator who can speak Czech. In this way, not only can I go to the Czech Republic for free, but I can also get money, 1,000 a day." "Yes," Suyisha said with a smile. "Interpreter." Xiawei frowned, "The employer is a man or a woman?" "The man is the boss of Zionan's company. From what she said, he seems quite young." "No, I don't agree." "What's wrong?" Suyisha glanced at him in confusion. "Didn't I say that when I save enough money, I will accompany you to the Czech Republic? I'm going to the Czech Republic this time, so we can go together next time without delay. It's a free trip and there's still money to take, why not go? He is a man and you are a woman. You two are traveling abroad together, alone and alone. Do you think this is appropriate?" Xiawei said unhappily. Suyisha was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, "Okay, don't be so petty, I'm just going to work." She kissed him on the cheek and said, "When I come back from abroad, I will bring you a gift." "Not even for work?" "I don't agree with it anyway," Xiawei said with a sullen face. His girlfriend is so beautiful, how can he trust her to travel alone with a strange man? If something happens between the two of them, he will be green on the head. "But I promised Xiao Nan." "Then call her again and tell her you're not going." Seeing her boyfriend being so unreasonable, Suyisha was a little angry. "Can you please stop being so unreasonable?" "Am I being unreasonable? My girlfriend wants to travel with another man, and I can't control it anymore. Xiao Sha, do you still blame me for giving the money we saved to your family? But something happened to my mother, and I can't just ignore it. Let's go traveling with you in peace of mind." Xiawei seemed to be venting. "Explain." "Xiawei, so this is how you see me," Suyisha didn't expect that he would say such words, and for a moment, she felt extremely disappointed. She didn't know if Siewei had changed, or if she was mistaken, paranoid, unmotivated, and petty. Why did the sunny, cheerful, and considerate boy she liked disappear as soon as she entered society? Suyisha got up, picked up her coat and left. What are you going to do? I'll book a ticket to Shanghai. You still want to go? Didn't I say it? I don't agree. Whether you agree or not, I will go. Suyisha, do you want to break up with me? Siewei stood up suddenly and said angrily. Suyisha's hand stopped opening the door and she looked back at him. You can think whatever you want. After saying that, she opened the door and went out. With a bang, the door was closed. Siewei stood there, his expression extremely ugly. At noon the next day, Li Jie met Wu Nan's cousin at the South Railway Station. Mr. Li, Sister Zhao, this is my cousin Suyisha. Cousin, this is Mr. Li, the boss of our company, and assistant Zhao. Wu Nan introduced both parties. Suyisha shook hands with Li Jie and Zhao Jie respectively, and said with a smile, Mr. Li is very young. Li Jie was a little surprised when he saw Suyisha. He didn't expect that Wu Nan's cousin was quite beautiful. The other party is a Japanese-style beauty, sweet and cute, kawaii, with extremely delicate makeup. She also has an excellent figure. She is what men consider to be a slightly fat type, that is, she is fat where she should be fat and thin where she should be thin. Senior sister, just call me Li Jie. Senior sister, Suyisha was stunned for a moment. Thanks to book friend 16080413114573 for the 2000-point reward. Thanks to Jujugui 0 for his 300 points reward, thanks to Wanyan 6 for his many rewards, thanks to Earth, Wood, Water, and Fire missing 1, Sleeping Aha, book friends 20211030111064626544188, and book friends 20170107102713242 for their rewards, and thanks to book friends 2020004121040068843 for their 600 points reward. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 137. I am a freshman this year and am studying at Hongcheng Normal University, Li Jie said with a smile. Suyisha couldn't believe it. You're just a freshman and you're already starting a company. It's just a small company, making small fuss. The two parties exchanged a few words and got in the car. In order to pick up people, Li Jie asked Zhao Jie to rent an Audi A6. After all, it would be unreasonable for a company to not even have a car to pick up people. Returning to the company, he came to the small conference room. After sitting down, Li Jie said to Suyisha, Xiaonan should have told you everything about the situation. Senior, do you have anything else to ask? Suyisha smiled and said, Mr. Li, can I ask, what are you going to the Czech Republic for this time? Is it a business trip or tourism? It's considered a trip. Why do you say it is? At this time, Suyisha's cell phone rang. She took it out, took a look at it, frowned, and hung up. Li Jie glanced at her and said, Senior, if you need anything, just pick it up. Suyisha smiled and said, It's okay, let's continue. Li Jie nodded, I'm going to several places in the Czech Republic to walk around and have a look. Mr. Li, how many days do you plan to stay in the Czech Republic? It can take as short as 3 to 5 days, and as long as about 10 days. Senior sister, if there are no problems, let's sign a temporary contract, right? Good. After signing the temporary employment contract, Li Jie asked Zhao Jie to book 2 tickets to the Czech Republic. The next day, at midnight, Li Jie and Suyisha boarded a flight from Shanghai to Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic. The plane flew for more than 14 hours and arrived at Prague airport at 6:35 local time. The Czech Republic is a landlocked country in Central Europe with a land area of 8,866 square kilometers. It was formerly Czechoslovakia and peacefully separated from Slovakia in 1993. The Czech Republic was listed as a developed country by the World Bank in 2006. Prague is the capital and largest city of the Czech Republic. It is also a famous tourist city. The city has a large number of buildings of various historical periods and styles, among which Baroque and Gothic are particularly dominant. The overall impression of Prague's architecture is that the tops of the buildings are particularly rich in changes and the colors are extremely brilliant. It is known as one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. Ligia had exchanged 10,000 euros before coming. This money was enough for two people to live in the Czech Republic for 10 days and a half. At the currency exchange point at Prague Airport, they exchanged euros for krona. Ligia and Suyisha took a taxi to a hotel in the city. The two of them were very tired after a 14-hour flight and needed to take a rest first to get rid of the jet lag. Prague is indeed known as one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. When you look through the car window in a taxi, you can see all kinds of ancient buildings from different historical periods everywhere, as if you have returned to ancient Europe. After arriving at the hotel and requesting 2 single rooms, Ligia said to Suyisha, "Senior sister, you should have a good sleep first and take a rest. We will discuss tomorrow's itinerary in the evening." "Okay, I'm indeed a little tired," Suyisha nodded with a smile. Seeing Suyisha swiping her card and entering the room, Ligia also entered his room. This hotel called Ariston Hotel is in very good condition, just a few blocks from the city center. The rooms are equipped with satellite TV, work desk, minibar, tea/coffee making facilities, and separate bathroom. Ligia had slept on the plane before and was not very sleepy. He went to the bathroom to take a shower, then lay on the bed and turned on the TV. A burst of chirping sounds came from the TV. The satellite TV received TV programs from various European countries. They were in various languages. Ligia couldn't understand them at all. He took the remote control, changed several channels, and found an English channel, which he could barely understand. It's just that the appearance of Westerners with their high noses and deep eyes really didn't fit Ligia's taste. Plus, he couldn't get the laughs out of foreigners' programs. After watching them for a while, he felt so bored that he just yawned and simply turned off the TV. Ligia thought for a while, took out his mobile phone, and called Xiaoqiao and Zhouziu respectively. He briefly chatted with them, told them that he had arrived in the Czech Republic, and then hung up. After making the call and having nothing to do, he simply took out his laptop and power adapter from the suitcase, plugged it in, turned on the computer and started coding. After writing 2 chapters, Ligia looked at the time and found that it was already 10 o'clock. He felt a little sleepy, so he went to bed. When he woke up again, it was already past 3 p.m. He got up and changed his clothes, preparing to go to dinner with Suyisha after she got up later. After changing clothes, Ligia turned on the TV again out of boredom. This time he found a somewhat interesting program. Paid adult programming. He watched it critically for a while. European and American action movies were really not interesting. They were too simple and crude and had no technical content at all. Moreover, the heroines are rarely eye-catching. If he didn't have a choice, Ligia wouldn't watch it. At around 4 o'clock, the doorbell suddenly rang. Ligia guessed that Suyisha had gotten up, so he turned off the TV. He stood up and opened the door and found that it was Suyisha outside. "Senior, have you slept well?" "Yeah," Suyisha smiled and stretched. She wore a blue slim-fitting long sweater dress, light brown wool curly long hair, naturally fluffy bangs, and girlish Japanese makeup. The whole person looked lustful, pure, cute, and full of charm. As soon as she stretched her waist, her curves were even more exposed, and her good figure was undoubtedly on display, and Ligerin couldn't help but take a second look. "Senior, are you hungry?" Let's go eat first and discuss tomorrow's itinerary. Good. Li Jie did not go to the hotel restaurant, but left the hotel with Suyisha and went to a Chinese restaurant next door. In fact, this was his first time in Europe and his first time eating Chinese food abroad. When he came to the Chinese restaurant, Li Jie looked around and found that the environment was very ordinary and the decoration style was still in the 1980s and 1990s. The two found a seat by the window and sat down. Li Jie picked up the menu and looked at it. He found that it was in Czech, so he called the waiter to change it to Chinese. The waitress showed no enthusiasm for the compatriots. She was cold, careless, and indifferent. Instead, she greeted the foreigners with a smile and enthusiasm. Li Jie was eye-opening. The reality is indeed different from the novel. According to the plot in the novel, we should not be compatriots overseas. The boss comes out to greet us warmly and offers a discount or something. Kung Pao chicken, husband and wife lung slices, Kung Pao shrimp, stir-fried beef, boiled fish, stir-fried vegetables. After discussing with Suyisha, Li Jie ordered 6 common dishes. Thanks to all the book friends who voted, please vote and collect. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yunjie. Chapter 138. After the waiter left, Li Jie said to Suyisha, "Sister, you chose to learn Czech. You should know the Czech country better, right?" Suyisha smiled and said, "I know some information about the Czech Republic, but I don't know much about it. This is my first time coming to the Czech Republic." Li Jie nodded. "Senior, do you know how many monasteries there are in the Czech Republic?" "How many monasteries?" Suyisha was stunned for a moment. "I really don't know this, but the Czech Republic was formerly the Kingdom of Bohemia and the Kingdom of Great Moravia. It was a clerical country in the Middle Ages and had many monasteries. Although many monasteries have been abandoned over the years, many remain, such as Strahov Monastery and St. Agnes Monastery, which are famous monastery attractions in the Czech Republic." Before Li Jie came, he checked a lot of information on the internet and knew that the Czech Republic used to be a clerical country with a strong religious atmosphere and many monasteries. But according to Suyisha, the number of monasteries in the Czech Republic was more than he estimated. "If we were to find one monastery after another, when would we go there?" "Mr. Li, are you going to visit the monastery?" Suyisha glanced at him. Li Jie hummed absent-mindedly and silently recited the 4 words Bohemia in his mind. He always felt that the place name Bohemia was a bit familiar. "Senior sister, what are the famous monasteries in the Bohemian region of the Czech Republic?" Bohemia is a place name in Central Europe, now located in the central and western region of the Czech Republic and including the capital Prague. Prague's Strahov Monastery, St. Agnes Monastery, or these 2, I don't know about the others. I need to ask the locals. Okay, let's go to Strahov Monastery tomorrow. As for St. Agnes Monastery, Li Jie directly ruled it out. The name was too unfamiliar and it was definitely not the monastery he was looking for. "You are the employer, I will listen to you," Suyisha said with a smile. Strahov Monastery is a famous tourist attraction in Prague and the oldest monastery in Prague. The luxurious and exquisite Baroque-style library in the monastery is known as the most beautiful library in the world. Suyisha had previously planned to travel to the Czech Republic, and one of her destinations was Strahov Monastery. For her, it was a perfect balance between travel and work. After planning tomorrow's trip, Li Jie and Suyisha chatted for a while. After waiting for almost 30 minutes, he urged the waiter again and the waiter started serving the dishes. The service was really lacking. After the food arrived, Li Jie tasted it and found that the taste was very average and the rice was a bit raw. He immediately decided not to come again next time. After finishing the meal and walking out of the Chinese restaurant, Suyisha glanced at Li Jie and said, "Mr. Li, it's still early. How about we go shopping and then go back?" Leisha actually has no interest in traveling. In his opinion, instead of wandering around, it is better to go back to the hotel and read 2 more chapters of the novel. But he was not at ease letting Suyisha wander around alone. She was so beautiful in this foreign country, in an unfamiliar place. What if something happened to her? After all, he was the one who brought Suyisha abroad, so he must be responsible for her safety. Okay, let's go shopping for a while. Seeing that Leisha agreed, Suyisha immediately smiled and said, then let's go to Prague Castle first. I really can't believe what the woman said. We agreed that we would only go shopping for a while, but ended up shopping until around 9 p.m. Prague Castle, St. Vitus Cathedral, Charles Bridge. Suyisha took Leisha to 2 or 3 famous attractions in Prague. Due to limited time, the two could only visit briefly and take a few photos. Mainly Leisha was taking photos for Suyisha. He just took 1 or 2 symbolic photos at each scenic spot. In fact, when the two of them arrived at Prague Castle, it was almost dark, and they spent the entire trip admiring the night view. I have to say that the night view of Prague is really beautiful. Old-style carriages carry curious tourists through the square, and the horse hooves hit the stone road with a crisp sound. The lights in the attic of the castle flicker on and off, and the people on the street bars and shops still attract tourists who are tired from walking during the day, and small bands on the roadside sing, play, world-famous songs or local bohemian folk songs. It makes people feel as if they are in medieval Europe, or a world of fairy tales. The Charles Bridge at night is still bustling with people and crowds of people. Leisha and Suyisha followed the endless flow of people and walked on the Charles Bridge. The lights on the banks of the Vltava River dotted the ancient buildings on both sides. The evening breeze blew on their faces and the night was pleasant. Most of the tourists coming and going were white people, very few yellow people. In Prague in January, nights can reach -1 or 2 degrees Celsius, and the weather is still a bit cold. Leisha glanced at Suyisha, who was walking side by side, and saw that she was rubbing her arms. It was obvious that she was a little cold, so she put on her clothes. The woolen coat was taken off and draped over her shoulders. Suyisha was stunned for a moment, then grabbed the coat draped over her shoulders. Mr. Lee, you gave me your clothes, aren't you cold? Leisha smiled and said, it's okay, I'm wearing thick clothes. He won't be like a young man who suffers from the cold just to look cool. He still pays attention to keeping warm. Even if she gave her coat to Suyisha, she still had a thick sweater underneath, which would only make her feel a little cold, but not cold. With thick clothes on her body, Suyisha suddenly felt much warmer. She couldn't help but think of the time when she and Siewei were in school together. The two of them walked on campus together. When she felt cold, Siewei would take off his coat and put it on her. And how long has it been since he did something so considerate? Thinking of Siewei, Suyisha's mood suddenly became very bad, and she had no intention of continuing shopping. Mr. Lee, how about we go have a drink? Okay. Leisha was tired of wandering around for a long time. No matter how good the scenery is, it will become the same after looking at it for a long time. I wanted to spend some time with Suyisha again, so I went back to rest early. I have a schedule tomorrow. The two of them didn't go far, so they found a small bar next to the Charles Bridge at night. When I walked into the bar, I found that the environment was very quiet. There were only a few customers drinking and chatting quietly. I saw 2 Asian faces, Leisha and Suyisha, coming in. I glanced at them and stopped paying attention. After finding an empty seat and sitting down, Leisha ordered 2 glasses of Czech beer. As soon as the waiter put down the beer, Suyisha picked up the beer and drank half of the glass. She put the glass down and let out a sigh of relief. It feels much better. This Czech beer is a large cup of more than 500 ml, and half a cup is equivalent to half a bottle. To put it bluntly, the Czechs are probably the best beer drinkers, with an average of 218 bottles of beer per person per year. Beers in the Czech Republic are usually large cups of more than 500 ml, and some are even more exaggerated, exceeding 1000 ml, which is almost 2 bottles of beer. Quantity. People with poor alcohol tolerance will basically drink it in one glass. Thanks for the 10,800 point reward for farming when you are free to watch the sea. Thank you for the 5,000 point reward for itoling. Thank you for the 1,500 point reward for the blooming and falling phoenix flowers. Thank you for the 0,000,000 point reward for MOY, and the 500 point reward for readers 1406926757368250368, and thank you for the 500 point reward for Feng Xiaoyan Mu. Snow on 1,000 mountains, Wanyan 6, and there are bloodstains under God's feet will be rewarded. Thank you for your support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 139. Li Zhe was a little stunned. He didn't expect Suyisha, a Japanese girl with a gentle and cute appearance, to be so good at drinking. Mr. Li, why don't you drink? Suyisha glanced at him. Li Zhe smiled at her, picked up the glass and took a sip. He had to say that this beer was indeed good. It tasted mellow and sweet, and was not comparable to the water-infused beers in China. Even people like him who don't like to drink find it delicious. Suyisha picked up the wine glass again and drank the remaining half of the glass. Li Zhe couldn't help but glance at her, feeling that she must have something on his mind. He waved to the waiter, and then said to her, "Senior, please order dessert." He didn't speak Czech and couldn't order food, so he had to ask Suyisha to order a blueberry crumble cake and a beer for me. When the service brought the cake and beer, Suyisha picked up the beer and wanted to drink it again. Li Zhe smiled and stretched out his hand to stop her. "Don't just drink, eat some cake." After saying that, he pushed the cake in front of her eyes. Suyisha was stunned for a moment, glanced at Li Zhe, then put down her wine glass, then picked up her fork and ate the cake in small bites. "Mr. Li, do you have a girlfriend?" "Yes," Li Jackson said, "there are 2 more." "Then are you so considerate to her?" Suyisha looked at him deeply. Li Zhe smiled. "What does this mean?" "You are a girl and I am a boy. I should take care of you." He is not born with the ability to take care of others. He has been trained with time and experience. Otherwise, why would he be said to be attracted to young girls? Of course, rich people are called uncles, and those without money are called old men. Definitely, Suyisha read the word for a moment, put down the fork in her hand, her expression was indescribably complicated. "You mean it's obviously the person closest to you, why is it not as good as an ordinary friend?" Li Zhe glanced at her and vaguely understood something. "I just did something considerate to you, and you were very touched. And maybe your boyfriend does this kind of thing every day, but occasionally ignores your feelings, and you are disappointed in him. People often ignore the usual concern of those around them, but are deeply moved by the warmth of strangers." But Li Zhe didn't say this. It was just a guess on his part. Don't tell others to be kind if you don't know others' suffering. Without knowing the cause of the matter, standing on the moral high ground and commenting on others arbitrarily is a kind of moral kidnapping in itself. At this time, Suyisha's cell phone rang. She took a look at it and hung up. But within 2 minutes, the phone rang again, and this time she hung up without even looking at it. The 3rd time, the phone rang again. Seeing that Suyisha was about to hang up again, Li Zhe said, "Senior sister, how about you answer the call?" He could see the hesitation in her heart. If she really didn't want to answer, she could just turn off the phone. Suyisha looked at the phone, hesitated for a few seconds, nodded and said, "Then I'll answer the phone." After saying that, She took the phone and left in a hurry. And she left for more than 20 minutes. Li Jie drank all the beer and waited for a while, but Suyisha hadn't come back yet. Just when he was worried that something had happened to her and was about to go find her, she finally came back. Suyisha seemed to have cried just now, her eyes were red and her makeup was all gone. "What's wrong? Someone is bullying you," Li Jie asked nervously. He was really afraid that she would be bullied. After all, she was in a foreign country and unfamiliar with the place. "It's okay," Suyisha sniffed, her voice a little choked. After saying that, she picked up the glass of beer she ordered before and drank it in one go. Ahem. She choked because she drank too hard. "Is this okay?" Even without asking, you would have guessed that there was probably a quarrel with your boyfriend. Li Jie stood up and patted Suyisha's back, reached for the wine glass in her hand, and said, "Okay, stop drinking." After choking, Suyisha's face turned red, and she regained her breath. She looked at him with tears in her eyes, her expression full of grievance and helplessness. "Wine drink. Li Jie. Sister, what do you mean? Can we say something that people can understand?" "I said I was very sad and wanted to drink," Suyisha choked and said again. "Don't worry, I won't delay tomorrow's trip." Li Jie sighed inwardly. "Okay, you can drink it if you really want to. But you still have to drink less." "What is this?" "I don't know which man caused the emotional debt, but he actually let him take the blame. Iniku, dage me dali pivo, waiter, bring me another beer." Suyisha waved to the waiter. "1 cup, 2 cups." When Suyisha waved to the waiter again and asked for the 4th cup, Li Jie had to reach out and stop her. "Okay, you really can't drink anymore." She drank 5 cups of more than 500 ml of beer, which was equivalent to more than 4 bottles of beer. Her cheeks were red, her eyes were blurred, and she was obviously drunk. Li Jie grabbed the wine glass from Suyisha's hand and tried to help her up. "Let's go, I'll take you back." Suyisha resisted and struggled. "I want to drink more." "Sister, can you please stop speaking Japanese all the time?" Li Jie half supported and half hugged her up. Suyisha is only about 1.65 meters tall, but her weight is the heaviest among the girls he has ever hugged. She should weigh 100 pounds. Girls weigh less than 100, and are either flat-chested or short. During the physical contact, Li Jie could feel that the senior had a really good figure. She must have a little D. After calling the waiter to pay the bill, Li Jie walked out with Suyisha on his side. "Wow," Suyisha cried suddenly, "you bullied me." Li Jie stopped and looked at the pear blossoms and the rain, and the pitiful Suyisha felt like her head was getting big. Originally, the entanglement between the two people was already attracting attention, but her crying attracted the attention of all the guests in the bar. At this time, the waiter came over and said something to Li Jie. Although Li Jie didn't understand, he guessed what he meant. It was probably that you should stop making noise here and please go out and solve the problem. He nodded to the other party, indicating that he understood, and sent the waiter away. Li Jie gently held Suyisha in his arms, patted her back and comforted her, saying, "Okay, don't cry." "Then do you know you were wrong?" Suyisha sobbed. "Li Jie. What did he do? What was wrong with him?" Seeing Suyisha's aggrieved expression, Li Jie's heart softened. "Okay, I was wrong. Then where did you go wrong?" "Li Jie. Sister, you're not done yet, are you? I shouldn't make you angry or make you sad." "Husband, let's make peace." Her voice dropped. "Thanks to everyone who voted, please vote and collect. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yunjie. Chapter 140. "Okay," Li Jie hesitated for a moment, then agreed softly. After getting the answer, Suyisha relaxed and fell asleep in his arms. Glancing at Suyisha in his arms, Li Jia understood that the senior sister was not too drunk. She was really drunk and going crazy. She even mistook him for her boyfriend. Not only did he take the blame for someone else, but he also helped him coax his girlfriend. What kind of thing is this? With a slight sigh, Li Jia picked up Suyisha and left the bar. Stopping a taxi on the side of the road, Li Jia opened the back door and helped Suyisha into the car first, and then he also got in. Facing the white man's inquiry, Li Jia spoke English and gestured, and finally let the other person understand where they were going. Back at the hotel, Li Jia carried Suyisha to her room door, put her down, rummaged in her pocket, found the room card and opened the door. He picked up Suyisha again, entered the room, and put her on the big bed before he let out a sigh of relief. Looking at Suyisha's quiet and sweet sleeping face when she was drunk, Li Jia shook his head in his heart. Her boyfriend was cruel enough, and he was not willing to hurt such a gentle and sweet girlfriend. Although Suyisha's appearance is a little worse than Xiao Qiao's, her graceful figure, mature temperament and exquisite Japanese dress make her a rare beauty among girls. For many boys, if they have such a girlfriend, it is too late to pamper her and love her, and they are not willing to let her suffer. Li Jia went to the bathroom to get a hot towel and came back. He wiped Suyisha's face and hands, took off her shoes for her, and then pulled the quilt to cover her. After looking at Suyisha again, he turned and left. After the door was gently closed, Suyisha, who was lying on the bed, slowly opened her eyes and looked in the direction of the door with drunken eyes, looking slightly embarrassed. She actually woke up when she got off the taxi, but she was too embarrassed to face Li Jia and kept pretending to be asleep. Suyisha also knew that she was not a good drinker, but she never expected that she would do such a shameful thing, acting like a drunkard to a boy who she had only known for 2 or 3 days and who was 3 or 4 years younger than her. And actually thought of him as. In her junior year, she and Xie Wei broke up and drank a lot of wine at a small restaurant outside campus. Xie Wei found her and persuaded her to go back to the dormitory. "You are bullying me. Zayasha, I beg you, please stop crying, okay? Then you know you're wrong. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be angry with you. It's all my fault. Please forgive me. Husband, let's make up." Suyisha did not expect that the scene from that year would be reproduced tonight. It's a pity that she is no longer the same person as before, and the person is not the same person as before. She knew that she and Xie Wei would never be able to go back. When Xie Wei became hysterical and scolded her, at that moment, she completely gave up on him. Suyisha reached out and took out her mobile phone and turned it on. As soon as she turned it on, she saw more than 20 missed calls, all from Xie Wei. She called him back directly. After the call was connected, Xie Wei's voice of surprise came from the other side. "Zayasha, you finally called me. I'm sorry, I just lost control of my emotions. I shouldn't have said that to you." When the other party apologized and made excuses, he finished talking. Suyisha only said calmly, "Xie Wei, let's break up." "Break up?" Xie Wei on the other side of the phone suddenly became anxious. "I don't agree to break up. I don't agree. Xiao Shat, you can't be so heartless to me. Give me another chance." His voice turned to pleading again. "I've given you many chances." There was an indescribable tiredness in Suyisha's voice. "We keep quarreling like this, making up, quarreling again, and making up again. Xie Wei, you are not tired, but I am, and I don't want to continue. Xiao Sha, I promise you, next time I..." "Next time? How many more next times?" Suyisha didn't want to talk to him anymore. "Xie Wei, whether you agree or not, we broke up." "Xiao Sha, you can't be so heartless." Xie Wei's voice suddenly became excited again. "Is it because of your employer? Is he interested in you, so you..." "But..." Suyisha closed the phone cover and hung up the phone. She couldn't help but touch her stomach, feeling a little queasy and nauseous. Maybe you drank too much. On the morning of the 28th, just after Li Jie got up and washed up, the doorbell rang. He opened the door and saw that it was Suyisha. Senior, so early, Li Jie was a little surprised. It's not yet 7 o'clock. She was quite drunk last night. She didn't expect to get up so early. Don't you have a schedule today? Get up early and start early. After saying that, Suyisha pretended to say casually, Mr. Li, I seemed drunk last night. You sent me back, right? Did I lose my temper when I was drunk? Li Jie took a deep look at Suyisha. She didn't really remember anything, right? Of course not. You drink really well. You fall asleep as soon as you're drunk. He was lying with his eyes open. It's good that I didn't cause any trouble to you, Suyisha smiled, but the smile was a little forced. Senior, are you feeling unwell? Li Jie noticed that her face looked a little haggard, and even with makeup, he couldn't hide it. It's okay, it's just that I drank too much last night and I'm still a little bit over it. It should be fine in a while. Suyisha forced a smile again. After hearing what she said, Li Jie didn't think much about it. He changed his clothes, went to the restaurant to have breakfast with Suyisha, and then the two took a taxi to Strahov Monastery. Strahov Monastery is the oldest monastery in Prague. The theological library in the monastery is the largest monastic library in the country. The interior dome murals were painted by famous painters in the 18th century. They are beautiful and full of artistic flavor. After buying 2 tickets and a photo coupon, Li Jie and Suyisha walked into Strahov Monastery side by side. Casual photography is not allowed in the monastery. To take photos, you need to buy a photo coupon, a small yellow sign, which is affixed to your clothes or bag so that the staff can see it, and then you can take a photo with your camera. Li Jie gave the camera to Suyisha. Senior sister, you can wander around by yourself, I won't accompany you. Then what are you going to do? Suyisha glanced at him. I'm going to walk around outside the monastery. When I'm done, I'll call you and we'll meet up again. How about I come with you? No, you just go shopping, I can do it alone. I'd better accompany you, Suyisha insisted. Thanks to everyone such as Lonely Wood, Wanyan 6, Clown Mask XHH, Book Friends 2010226035109301, Polaris 009, and above for their support.